Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Sean Riley, CEO of Main Course Hospitality Group, a partnership-based hotel management company with a people-first culture. Founded in 1986, MCHG delivers strong financial returns for owners while supporting teams who bring hospitality to life. Now, over the years, the company has grown from one property to more than 24 hotels across the U.S. Under Sean's leadership, they have expanded their footprint and embraced a culture rooted in integrity, respect, family, and fun. Now, Sean began his journey with MCHG in 1992 as a general manager. With more than 4 decades of hotel management experience, he is known for reaching out personally to associates, handwriting notes of appreciation, and engaging with employees during holidays. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Now imagine being able to give your hotel employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. And here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money into your employees' pockets. And the companies too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, the CEO of Main Course Hospitality Group, Sean Riley. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
Well, thanks, Anthony. This is great to be chatting with a professional. I mean, you're good, and you look good, you act good, and I love it. But we got a lot of fun stuff we can talk about. We chatted a little bit before, and I'm just ready to jump in. Let's do it.
Let's do it. And actually, I'm going to go a little bit out of order here because before we started, you were talking about something that really caught my attention. We're recording this on December 18th, 2025. So right heading into the holidays. And I was asking you what your plans were for Christmas. And what you answered really surprised me. What is it you're going to be doing on Christmas?
Well, I do this every Christmas, and it's probably one of the biggest pleasures I have. We have over 700 associates in our company, over 28 hotels, 8 states, and they're all working. There's people working on Christmas, and that's a commitment on their part. Now we pay them extra for it, and there's benefits for that, but they're working on Christmas. So I call every hotel, every shift on Christmas. Now we have 27 hotels, and 3 shifts: midnight shift, day shift, night shift, and just say Merry Christmas and thank you for working today. I know it's a holiday, but I really appreciate it. And the fun thing is, some of these people say, Sean, this is the 15th year we've talked. That's good for a night audit. You don't want to lose night audits because I don't want to do that shift. But, those are the fun things that to me, I get so much pleasure out of and enjoyment and it's just exciting. And so we do that. And then I, it's like I'm an overachiever. I said, okay, well, I bought a Santa suit for when I might go visit my grandkids when they were younger. And so I started doing that, and I'd go out and visit 6 or 7 hotels within a couple hours of us. Again, I'm an early morning guy, so I go in and I go, oh, Sean, I was wondering if you're going to show up this year as Santa. But it goes back to these people are working on Christmas. That's a holiday. I do this. I make the calls on Thanksgiving as well, but I don't visit the hotels, and they deserve it, and they come to expect it. And I guess that's an okay thing. And the first time I did it was when we had 1 hotel, and I called 3 shifts. But when you get 27, it takes a bit more time. But it's one of the biggest joys I have over the Christmas holiday.
So what are you, just like up all night?
No, it's 3:30. I mean, I get up at 3:30 anyway. So I just call them up and I'll say, and I'll make some of the calls in my car if I'm dressed as Santa. So I did get pulled over once, and the guy a police officer, and I'm in the Santa suit. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I'm thinking, what the heck do you think I'm doing? I got a Santa suit on. So I didn't get arrested though. He was okay. And I asked him, I said, wait, can I do a selfie? I thought that'd be so cool for social media. And he said, no, I can't. He got a little upset when I asked him to do a selfie with me, but
Well, I have a feeling we're going to talk a lot more about company culture as we get into this conversation, just based on that little bit that we covered there. But before we get to that point, I want to understand kind of your entry into the industry, because you actually started out, I believe, as a teacher.
I
Is
did.
that right?
Yeah.
And how did that experience kind of influence the way that you mentor and develop talent today?
Well, it's a great point because you have to think about your career and what you did. And then all of a sudden you start, I've been doing this for many years. I graduated from the same school I went and taught at. So I taught kids with special needs, but bright kids, just had little quirky things going on with them. And I learned from those years that you take someone from where they're at. If this kid could only do math, if couldn't do math, you let him use a calculator. It's the concept of what you get now. Or if he couldn't read, there's ways to work around that. And you take that student from this point and go to another point, and they learn. So when I look back at that, how did it help me? So we have housekeeping teams that we need to take from where they're at. They may have a language barrier. They may have personal issues. They may have life issues. And so you take them from where they're at, and no two people are alike. But then you take it up a level, you go to assistant managers. It's the same thing. General managers, same thing. We've got a general manager who'd be so good at the numbers, someone else who's so good at loving the people. So it's the same thing. And even when you get to the senior corporate people, the same thing. They all operate different. They have their strengths and weaknesses. You just got to take them from where they're at.
And how do maybe this is the wrong way to ask the question, and I think you'll let me know if it is. How do you understand where somebody's ceiling is, so you can get an idea of where they are now and where they can get to?
Well, I don't think we can determine that right away. I think you have to it's the Peter principle. I probably shouldn't be in the role I'm in. I rose to my level of incompetence a few jobs ago. But I think what I have is the ability to read people and look at it. But to me, my job, I can't read everybody we have on a company because we're too large. But it's reading the people in between and helping them understand. And I think I'm real fortunate to be surrounded by people that are really good at that. And when it goes back to what our values are, is the positive purpose is to positively impact lives. If we keep that as our focus, we're going to look for ways to take them to where they want to go. Now, some people are very happy just doing what they did, and they've done the job for 20 years, and that's great. But we want to make sure that we ask that question. When they're doing the reviews, are you happy with what you're doing? Do you want to do more? And that's part of the way we get people out of that. And there are other people that are raising their hand all the time. And that's, those are the ones that are easy to pick out. But it's the other ones, kind of the sleepers. And it's like, geez, we should have said something to them years ago. Or we have pushed people into a role that they probably weren't ready for. That's the other thing. So that's why you have to be really cautious, because you don't want to set them up for failure.
Yeah. So whether they're raising their hand or you're kind of identifying them as folks that, could use some advancement, could use some help in getting from here to there, what does that then mentoring or that coaching or that teaching process look like at Main Course?
I think it's taking it step by step. And some people raise their hand, they might not be ready, and that's okay. And that's where the coaching comes in as well. And, when I was a GM or front office manager, I was doing those things on a daily basis and sitting by side. But I think a lot of our senior leaders are doing the same thing. They're sitting down, they're coaching, and they talk about that and they write it down. What do you want to do? And then you kind of map out a plan. How do you, we're not going to say you're a housekeeper today or a front desk person. We're going to give you a map through a general manager and corporate entity. We're not. We're going to say you're going to be, let's get you, are you helping the people you're working with? A lot of this doesn't mean a job change. It just means if you're assisting your coworkers, if all of a sudden you earn the respect of your coworkers, then it's like you're kind of get doing the job without getting anything about it. And all of a sudden you're proving yourself. And that's one of the things I think most of the senior leaders in our company, including me, I was doing the job, whatever level I was at, before I got the title, before I really had the job. And that's when it's like, you've got a safety net there now. If someone's raising their hand, they're doing the job and they're already doing it, then it's easy. And then people will say, well, it's about time. You should have had that job. And that's what they say to me. And they say, okay, well, he should have had that title, whatever it is. But there's a lot of people who have done that. And then what you do is you're not afraid of, what happens if they don't make it? Now you got to cut them back and put them in a different role. So you're kind of giving them that, letting them get their feet wet, and they may find out they don't like it. And that's okay too, because then they can do what they always wanted, what they always did.
Life is as much about figuring out which hats don't fit as which hats do fit, right? So let's talk about your own path. How did you get from being a teacher into the hospitality space?
Well, teachers need summer jobs. And I had a gentleman, we talked to, he would go to our church and he said, I'm thinking of buying this little motel. And the name will just tell you about when it was in the hierarchy of hotels. It was called Slumberland. And it had a seahorse on the sign. It was 19 rooms, and my wife and I were teachers, and we were just going to have a child. So I left teaching. I mean, she left teaching and was going to stay at home with the kids. And we ran a motel, and it was only open summers and weekends through the fall. And so we did everything there. We had like one housekeeper to help us, and we did everything else. And we had one night a week off. We were wealthy at that point. I mean, we were getting $4,000 a year for two of us, to run that motel. But it taught us the things. I mean, I did the plumbing. My wife did the accounting. She did the housekeeping. We both did these things, and we learned a lot from the ground. And then we had one employee. So that was how we learned how to deal with employees. But that was the start. And then each time we moved on to a little larger hotel, we'd get more of the interaction with associates. And, I wrote something somewhere recently. I was on a blog, I think, and the things we did when we had one employee and the way those employees reacted, it's no different than having 700. It's just, there's more of them, and so they want the same thing. They need the same thing. And if you treat it as if you're a one person hotel company, that's the way they want to be treated. Even though there's 700 of them, how can you make them feel like this company's revolving around them? Now, I don't have all the answers. I can't do that with 700, but if that message comes across and we're always talking about that and impacting the lives of our associates, then maybe 600 of them are going to feel impacted and positive.
That's really cool. Yeah. So how did the opportunity to join Main Course Hospitality Group come about?
Well, so I was moving that career and I finally gave up teaching, gave my notice. And I actually took a year's leave of absence to make sure it's what I wanted to do. Yep, I liked it. And then as soon as I gave my final notice, the place went on the market. I had to find something else. I had to move my family. And that was probably one of those downtimes. People, when you're in a position like mine, it's, oh, this guy's done this, he's done well, and he's done all this, and he just got there easily. And that was a tough thing. I had to move my family. I didn't know what we were going to do. And I took a big 40% cut in pay, moved to a different area. And when I got there, I said, okay, I found my place. This is going to be it. A little bit later, the guy ended up having financial problems. The guy that I moved to had financial problems, and he turned the hotel over to the bank in lieu of foreclosure. That was during the savings and loan crisis. And then we worked for a bank for 2 years. And then these two guys.
So the place stayed open. It was just under control of the bank. Okay.
Yeah. And it did very well. I mean, that was one of the crazy things, the savings and loans crisis. People were just calling, loans, and this place always did well. But, so then these two guys who were young bachelors, the older bachelors, and just having a blast, and they were restaurant guys, and they said, hey, let's buy this hotel. And they bought it. And that was the introduction to Main Course. That was the Freeport Inn. It was back in around 90, I guess, somewhere in the 90s, early 90s. And they all of a sudden, they said, you know what? We're making more money in this hotel than we are in any one of our restaurants. And then we did 2 hotels. And they said, geez, these 2 hotels are making more money than all our restaurants. And we were losing money in some of the restaurants. So they said, let's start moving down that path. And so that's how we kind of got going. And over time, we divested of the restaurants and just focused on hotels. It was a business decision. We loved I love the restaurant business. It's exciting, but it's a lot of hard work. We'd go home smelling whatever food we were serving that night. And when you sell a restaurant, it's different than when you sell a hotel. Hotel, you have an asset. When you sell a restaurant, you're selling the business and the name. And so it isn't necessarily as, get a good exit strategy. So that grew, and we did our first Marriott in 2004 and our first Hilton in 2006. And then we kind of focused mostly in those ranges with Hilton and Marriott franchising. And so that's kind of how we get into that. And then the Main Course was something, I had a boss. He was the president of the company, and he was a great mentor, great man. And when he chose to leave and I took over, I was scared to death. I mean, he was the most positive guy and an inspirational guy. And it's like, I were big shoes to fill, but we did, and we talked about it a lot as a group, and we did okay. We became a hotel company.
So I want to back up first to the time where you were sort of in limbo, right, in between. You had entered the hospitality space, tried it out for a year, then put in your full notice. Great, this is what I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden, you're without a job. And we kind of glossed over it. You touched on it a little bit, but like that loss of employment, loss of income, loss of identity, that's a real struggle to get through, especially, you've got a young family at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess what you do is you look back and you say, okay, we didn't do anything wrong. It was the situation we're in. And I mean, there were two of those back to back because the first one I lost, I left the job because it was going to be sold. And the second one I went into, it wasn't bankruptcy, but into foreclosure. And we ended up, each one of those things, we just kind of had to take it day by day. And it'd be gut wrenching. I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my family? What's going to happen? And, my kids, they were kind of young, and I'd take them to school and drop them off. And I had a little Ford Escort wagon, and it had a backup beeper, and it was a sick sounding thing. And I'd pull up to school and go, my kids, Dad, don't get anywhere into the building. But we had nothing. And we were afraid of losing what little we did have. And it just really took us, my wife and I we worked together, and it was really hard to say, we've got to get through this, and we're going to be fine no matter what we do. The worst case, we know we can get a job. We just don't know where or what it's going to be. And I think we just had to believe in ourselves, and we had to believe that this was going to be okay. And what's, I think, a byproduct of this is when we buy a hotel now, or a hotel is for sale and we're looking at it, or we're going to buy a hotel, which we do, at least once a year, I can relate to those people and what they're going through. Because I went through that not knowing if I was going to have a job. Any day someone came through for a tour and I didn't know what to say to them. I don't want to make it sound too good because they might, I don't make it sound too bad. And it was really, really gut wrenching to go through that. And our associates did too. And so I can relate. And when we're talking to the teams, and I said, I know what you're going through. And it's not because I'm trying to just say I'm empathetic or anything. I went through that and I know what you're going through. And I got through it okay. And we did fine. And I think you will too. And I promise you, we're going to earn your respect over this time. Because that's what's going to make a difference in you joining our family, the Main Course family.
And so are you owning all of the hotels that you're also operating, or do you operate as a management company for some other folks that own the hotel properties?
We do both.
You do both.
So when we began, it was two guys, Pete and Paul. They're crazy. The corporate name was Dorks R Us. And then they had a separate one that's Dorks Unlimited. And then Twinkie Maker. And they were crazy bachelors, had fun. As we started getting a little more size and business, if you go and pay a credit card at a restaurant, you have to give them the whole story about the restaurant, Dorks R Us, or go to insurance. Here comes Dorks Unlimited. But, so I lost the question. Oh, what was the question? I just get going on that.
I lost it too. I don't know. You took me down with
Dorks.
And, are you a management company, or do you, do your own properties?
Yeah. So when we started out, it was just the two guys, and everything was 50-50. And then we started saying, okay, one of the guys bought one, and then he bought another. And so we started a management company. Mm-hmm. We're all dorks, but we started a management company. It was that was Main Course Hospitality Group, just the entity.
Yeah.
And so then we had somebody asked us if we'd manage for them, and we said, sure. So right now, I think we have 8 managed properties that we have sliver equity, and we put equity in every one of them because we're showing that we want skin in the game. But the other ones, we have majority interest between, multiple partners, myself or the other 2 partners, or CFO. And we've actually opened it up to other leaders in the company too, if they'd like to be in the acquisitions. And so we manage for those people. We manage as if we own it. I think that's what kind of separates us in some cases. A lot of times management companies are purely management companies, but we know what it's like to have to pay the mortgage. We know what it's like when things go awry, or there's a hurricane, and you got to deal with things. It's not a big corporate thing. We know because we operate hotels. And so that, I think, is a benefit. And I think that's appreciated by our third party partners. And what's nice is that most of our partners, they had one hotel when they started with us. Now they have 2, or they have 3, or they have 4. And that's a nice thing. And actually, few of them are buying into the hotels that we have, and they're buying in. So it didn't start out that way. It started out, we were a management company. We get, a percentage of, the percentage we charge them, and we have a contract. Some of the contracts we have now, we just, it's like, there's no outs. We don't need it. If they want to get rid of us, they do, but they don't, and we don't go. And so it's just it goes back to the culture we have. And I think they believe in what we believe in. And that's a nice thing to have. When you choose partners, you want to choose people who are going to know and like you, and you know and like them. And you don't have to worry about, I just wouldn't shake your hand and say, let's go get it. Let's go start a business, but you got to get legal. So
yeah.
But so I'd say the majority, but we operate them. You wouldn't know. None of our people, probably some of our people don't even know that it's third party just because, within our company.
Yeah. Interesting. So what are some of the personality traits that you're looking for in a business partnership?
When people call and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about manage our place," and they said, "Well, how much do you charge?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, let's get together and talk. I said, "Well, I just want to know what you charge." And I said, "Well, it's going to depend on what you're going to find out if you like us. It makes no sense to talk about money if you don't like us, or vice versa." And I think we try to look for people who have the same way they want to treat associates. Obviously it's a big deal. We want to make more money by having more revenues, but not if it's not going to work. We had one recently I probably shouldn't get too deep into the story, but the guy was quite outgoing, and Jonathan and I, the guy we're not drinkers, and he kept wanting us to drink with him, and we said, "Well, this is truth serum," and I said, "Well, we tell the truth either way." But at the end of the day, this was 4 hours at a dinner, which was, we weren't drinking, but someone else was. But when we left, Jonathan was new to us, and he said, "Sean, what do you think?" He said, "There could be some money there." I said, "Yeah, I know, but do we want our people to be, when you go to one of our galas or with our leaders, and have somebody feel uncomfortable with a partner who doesn't fit who we are and what we believe in?" And then he said, "That's the healthiest thing." It's like, yeah, so we lost a couple $100,000 a year. It didn't matter to us because it didn't infect the people we really love, on our team.
That's powerful. Yeah. I mean, okay, if this guy wants to have a drink with dinner, but for him to be pushing it on you because he wants the truth serum, he wants the truth to come out. That's saying something.
It wasn't a one drink. By the way, I'll get offline and tell you the rest. But
okay.
But it was. It taught us something about, we stand for our principles, we stand with our people, and if we do that all the time, then they can count on us. That we're not going to. Now we can make mistakes too. I'm sure we could partner with someone who's not, and we've had partners who have done that, but not in this part of our company. So I think just stand true to our principles, what we stand for, and then it's kind of go back to that and say, is this going to help our culture to join with this team?
Yeah.
And if it isn't, we don't want it.
Well, I mean, part of your mission statement includes positively impacting lives.
Yep.
Can you wrap that in like a real life story that helps to illustrate that?
Yeah. Couple. So we acquired a hotel, and we had it about 5 years. And I write birthday cards for all our associates, and that,
all 700 of them.
Well, 700 that work for us, and 300 who left the job and came back, or that kind of thing. So it's about 1,000 a year. And someone else pulls them together for me. I don't do the mailing and all that. But, when you come in your desk and you get 70 birthday cards, and I don't just say, "Sean," I don't stamp it. I mean, I say, "Hey, Anthony, happy birthday. Hope it's a great one. It was great talking to you the other day." Or sometimes it's pretty generic because I might not even know who they are with 800 people, 700 people. But so I do it every year. And I went to this one hotel, and the housekeeper, the laundry lady, comes in, and she'd been there for 20 years or something. And she came out, "I need to show you something." I'm like, "Oh God," she's going to tell me she needs a new washer. She's not happy with the table or something like that. And I go in, she goes, look at that. And she's tapping on the wall. And I went around there and I looked it up closely, and it was the birthday cards for the last 5 years. And then a couple notes that she'd received from me or the general manager or something. She goes, "That's why I love this here." And it just, as I'm doing that 70 birthday cards, I walk in and I go, shoot, look at all those things. But in reality, look what that did. She's saving those on a wall. This is a 65-year-old woman that's proud of getting a note from the CEO.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. The other one, relative to the birthday cards too, is that I had like I said, I do those things on a regular basis. And I went out and visited a hotel, and a lot of times they'll say, "Hey, thanks, Sean," they'll see me. "Hey, thanks for sending me a birthday card." Someone else will say, they'll send me a text. "Hey, I really appreciate the birthday wishes." Well, I went to this one hotel, and the guy said, "Hey, Sean, I just want to thank you for the birthday card." They all did that. I said, "Well, that's great. I'm glad. I'm glad you meant something to her." He said, No, Sean, I want to tell you, it really was important." I said, "Well, good. I'm glad. And that, it makes me feel good." He said, "Sean, I mean, I really mean it, because I come home every day on my birthday. Every time I have a birthday, I come home and I go to the mailbox, and my mother's always got a card in there for me. And she didn't have one this year. And, so then I'm getting, oh my God." And he said, "The only thing in that mailbox was your card." And, and I still get choked up talking about it. It's such that guy needed that. And then he said, and furthermore, my girlfriend just broke up with me. And I came home and the only thing that was in there was your birthday card. So as much as I think, okay, there's 2 hours of my life every once a month on a Saturday, signing birthday cards, those are the kinds of things that matter. And that's where the positively impacting lives. We don't know at my level or any level how we're impacting lives when we do something, whether it be a note or a card or a call or a text, to someone who's sick or someone's in the hospital, something like that. And those two stories really remind me of how important what we do every day for our team and for our family make a difference.
So I have to assume that a big part of what makes all of this work, this people engine, is that you're leading by example. And your leaders, the folks that report to you, they're seeing this, they're following your example. But how else does this get communicated down through the ranks that, hey, this is the way that we run Main Course Hospitality Group. This is the way that we treat people.
It's not a 100% success rate. I mean, it doesn't get all the way through the organization. Not everybody does that. We have leadership meetings, and that's always on the subject. Now, when I go to visit hotels, it's always the conversation with the GMs, and if I run into the housekeepers, if I run into the assistant managers, I talk culture, I talk our values, and somehow I'm going to mention the word family because that's one of our values. And my behavior shows the fun. I always do crazy stuff. The integrity and respect is, you go in there, you ask for it. When we buy a hotel, one of the first things I say is, my job now is to just earn your respect. You don't have to give me respect. I want to earn it. And I think, yes, it does get passed down and people pick up on that. And I think when we're all in the same boat, we're all believing the same thing and we all talk about it and we believe in it, it just oozes out of not just me. I mean, I'm part of it. There's no question I'm part of it, but I'm not the only guy. And I've said for years, if I get hit by a bus, would this culture live on? And I'm positive it will. And we do social media within, in team social media, a Main Course Facebook, a Main Course website. We do, so we have a gala, which has all our leaders with their spouses or significant others, vendors, and it's a great event. We have like 200 people there and we always do we do fun stuff. And I think what tells people about that kind of thing oozes our culture and what we stand for. I have a tendency to have fun and we do videos. I probably send you one. I'll send you one of those, but the videos are really, just down to earth. Here's the CEO acting like a geek. I was Bruno Mars one year. I was Justin Timberlake another year. This year was probably our best production because we used some people, some students from college, and they helped put us do the recording. But I was cool in the gang. We were cool in the gang, and I was cool. And it was just. But you know what? It goes back to saying, when I go out and we go recording some of these videos at hotels, I'm standing there side by side with people, and we're having a blast, and we're laughing, and we're giggling, and we're watching someone dance silly. So it goes. So yes, I do that, but so do others.
Yeah.
We have a thing that started. You talked about when we first started with the first hotel. I was I was a front office manager, and it'd be a hot day in the summer, and I said, I'm going to bring popsicles. I'm going to go out and get popsicles and go around and give it to each housekeeper and each front desk person. And you'd think that you'd given them gold, and it's just a popsicle. So you do 1 hotel, 2 hotels, 10 hotels. It started getting out of way for me to be able to do that. Get to 15 hotels. So now we start our people that report to me, the ops leaders, and then they would do it. Now, when we do it, someone said one time, but you're going out and say, here's a popsicle. I know today's a hot day, but thank you for what you're doing. So one person told me one time, and I'll never forget, she said it. She said, Sean, you're so cheap. It's a popsicle. It's like 29 cents. And then I started feeling bad. I'm like, well, am I being cheap? And then I went back and I said, no. And I wrote a blog about it. I said, it's not about the pop. It's about the CEO or the corporate operations person going out and saying, thank you for what you're doing. And it's crazy. So then we build a hotel right next to where we operate. I went and gave it to the contractors. They almost started crying. They said, thank you so much. And these are contractors, they're up there spitting and swearing and everything. And they're just getting excited about a popsicle. But it goes back to that same thing.
It's the gesture.
Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing today. I know it's hot. And, it's a gratitude thing.
It's a human moment. It's an opportunity for connection, expressing your gratitude, I see you, I recognize what you're doing, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's authenticity, I think. It's like authentic. I mean, what CEO or what corporate person is going to hand you a popsicle? And if you told someone that, you'd think how nutty we were. But it's amazing the reaction you get, whether it be a popsicle, a birthday card, or a call, at midnight. Um, and it just goes back to that. You do things like that for your family. You give your kids popsicles. You write them birthday notes. You do that thing, and we're just a bigger family than most. We got 700 in our family. And that word family is, we've got a family within, we all have our personal families and we value that. And we try to make sure people take care of their families, but we have a housekeeping family at this hotel. We have one at this hotel. We have a whole company family, and we've got a corporate family. So that's a big deal for us.
I love this. I want to pause just for a second to draw even more attention to what we're talking about here, because, whether you're in a position of leadership like you are, and you're doing this for your company and your employees, or you're just doing it for folks around you in your community. I mean, hearing your stories about how positively affected, how emotional some people get because of a popsicle, right? It's not the popsicle. It's not the 29 cents that you spent at Target. It's the human gesture. It's being recognized, having that authentic human moment. What a beautiful thing if we all did just pause for a second in our day and showed that kind of recognition to somebody around us with a popsicle, with a card, with a kind comment or a word, right?
Absolutely. I think, and I look at my next career, my next part of my life. I'm kind of mature now, but how can I do that? Maybe in some other way, some other vehicle, some way that we all can make the world better. I mean, that sounds pretty grandiose, but it only takes one person. It only takes that housekeeper who got 5 birthday cards on a wall, or that guy whose mother didn't send him a birthday card. And all those things, one person is really, and I'm probably going to be okay for the rest of my life if I just impact one person a day. But add up, I use this example, add up 700 people in our company, and they all impact one person a day. Times 700 times 365 days a year. There's a lot of people impacted. And you don't know if it's that person you impacted, or the person's child, or the person's mother. Or you don't know if there was just a funeral and you did something like that. So those things, it just takes a gesture and an effort. And, I know my job's pretty busy too. I'm not, I mean, people say, well, I'm really busy, and it's okay. But what's it take when I'm driving in my car to call up and just say hi to a GM, or someone who just had a gal on our team that just had surgery for cancer? Just call her up, tell her I'm thinking of her, saying a prayer for her. And she wasn't there and I hung up. But you don't know. You don't know what that's going to do. Is that going to help her? Or is she just going to go, wow, I needed that today? Yeah. You don't know.
You referenced the next chapter in your life. Are you thinking about future steps here?
I am. Yeah. Like I said, I'm mature. If this is a video one, right? So you can see my gray hair and the wrinkles and all that.
We see how good looking you are. There's no hiding it.
Dapper for the old man. Yeah. I think, we've started a succession planning. We have someone that could step into this role. And what we're trying to do is make sure it's right, because it's so critical for us to take care of people, the rest of the family. It's not just Sean moving on to something different or moving on to a different role within the company or whatever it might be. So, but we want to do it right. We don't want people to be afraid that Sean's going to leave a hole. And so I prefaced, in a previous conversation, I talked about, I walked part of the Camino de Santiago. It's a trail, and I spent a lot of time reflecting and thinking about it. And every day I kept going, okay, I put my hands up and said, okay, there's the epiphany. And it wasn't the next day. Then the next day, no epiphany. But I think what I came out of it was saying, maybe I need to talk with the people within our teams and our company that really value who we are and what we stand for, and say, what are you afraid of? Not that anybody can't handle the job. We can get anybody to handle the job. We've got a great person who can handle the job. But what might make it a little easier for people to deal with that kind of transition? So we did. And I got 10 people that all gave me their real heartfelt information. And I think, there's certain areas that they don't want anything to slip by. And one is the culture. Mm. And one is that we are a management company that they came to join because of who we are and how we do things. I mean, some of the people, our longevity is crazy, and it's like 20 years for a lot of our GMs. And those are the ones who say, we don't want to mess this up. We got here because of who we are. Now we got to change. We have to evolve. We have to use technology. We have to do things differently. And the world is changing, but we still don't want to lose that. And so how do we make sure that we don't embrace that piece of our company, the culture, the, what we stand for? And it was really rewarding for me feeling that that meant that much to those people. It wasn't Sean. They were saying they don't want there to be a hole. And so I think over the next 6 months or a year, I'm going to spend a lot of time working on filling the gaps or filling the holes, and then embracing the people around it into a deeper part of our organization. So it's not just Sean. Yes, someone has to lead it and embrace it. And Jonathan will be able to do that, but it's got to go deeper than that. And it's got to go to the ops leaders, but then it's got to go to the GMs, and then get those GMs, those general managers in our language. So the general managers have so much they can do for their teams, and a lot of them embrace it and are great at it. But we just want to make sure more of us are, so that when Sean steps away, I can just step away, because this is my identity. I've been here 37 years. This is my identity. When someone talks main course, they talk Sean, and people recognize me as main course. Now, it isn't me. It's all of us, but it's still something I've got to get over. And the best way I can do that is to embrace the fact that maybe I can make it better when I do step away, and make it better for them. And so they can take the culture to the next level. It could go much further, I'm sure, with 10, 20, 50 people embracing culture.
So you try to set them up for future success once you step into whatever the next thing is. What do you think the next thing might be for you?
Positively impacting lives in another way. And I don't know what that is. I think I have to prepare myself for my future. I read a book called Strength to Strength by I lost his name, but Strength to Strength. And it talks about different parts of your career. And the first part, you're striving, you're getting faster, and you're doing a lot of stuff. You're articulate, you're fast, you're quick with memory, you're quick with everything you do, you're creative. And that goes on to your 20s and 30s. And then you get into your 40s and it kind of levels off. And then 50s, it slows down. But at that same point, there's another curve that's coming up. And that's the things, the EQ, the emotional IQ, the ability to inspire, the ability to see visionary, think a little differently. And so it's a different mindset, because I can't remember. I probably say your name wrong 3 times in this thing before it's over. But what I can do is impact you maybe and try to help you in some way, or help your listeners. And I think those are the areas that I probably have strengths in, that I do have strengths in, that have kind of been over it. I'm not moving the boxes. I used to work side by side with all the housekeepers and the maintenance guys, and I'd move stuff and I'd snow blow outside. I'm not doing it anymore. My body's not ready for it. And I can't remember much, but I can use those new skills that I have and utilize them better for the betterment of our company. And so I think part of it's going to be for the benefit of our company, and our legacy as a company, but also for maybe there's something further than that, and I don't know what that is, but I think right now I'm really exploring what I can do best for our people, 700 people, what will be 800 people by another year, and 900 people by another. And how can I set that up? And maybe that's still part of it, is like, if we get now, instead of 700 people impacting lives, maybe we have 800 where I am still somehow impacting people through that legacy.
Mm. You mentioned people don't want things to change, right? They love the culture that's there. Obviously, in your words, you have to continue to evolve as times change. What are some of the big changes that are occurring now in your industry?
In the industry? Mm-hmm. I think technology. I think there's a fear of technology. Everybody embraces it. You've got to do that. But I think some of the fears of technology, it's going to take away jobs, and we're just going to be we're going to go up and check in at a kiosk or something. I think in our industry, we're in hospitality. There's a difference in service and hospitality. Service is you bring a coffee cup to a guy and a person, and you pour the coffee. Hospitality is recognizing that they're left-handed, and they turn the cup from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock so they can just grab it. That's that extra bit of hospitality. So if I'm spending my time someone checking in and going through 12 steps to get them just to find out where their reservation is, another 12 steps to get them checked in, and then go over and make their key. Now, if you can have technology utilized there, when you check in, I can say, thank you for joining us. I'm really glad you're here today, Anthony. And see, I forgot your name already when I was doing that. But thank you, Anthony, for checking in. I know you were here last week, and I really appreciate that. How's your kids? I know you talked about that one of them had a soccer game. That's what hospitality is about. And so if we can embrace technology enough so that, you're still going to, I am mature, and I always say that you don't get old as long as you're relevant. So I have to stay relevant in this technology stuff. But I think if we can take away those soft spots that take time that people don't want. They just don't want it. Make it easier for them. Then they're going to come back. So what restaurant would you go to, Sean? Or where would I go? What's the best place to go for a walk? Where can I go for a jog? I got to get my flat tire fixed. Where do I go? That's what we can give to the hospitality. And so I think it creates, but the fear is that first of all, there's a cost and there's a fear of people losing their jobs with AI. I mean, I use AI and, it does so much for me. And by using AI, it frees me up to do other things so I can make those calls. Well,
make those calls, write those birthday cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have that personal connection.
And, I do believe in, there is a segment. I mean, yes, you can use AI, you can use technology, you can do all this stuff and send out birthday cards. And if we all go out, the difference is, I think, when you make it personalized. So you just choose your weapons. AI and technology is amazing and you need to use it. We do it in our accounting. What used to take 10 steps now takes 2. And that's great. And nobody's lost a job. Now they can just double check things, or they can be better, or they can go next door and talk to the person next to them because there's a little more time.
And that's where I hear a lot of business leaders who are very people-centric talk about AI, not as a tool to be able to replace people, but a tool to be able to support their people, to allow them to accomplish more and to focus on the parts of their job that really require that human interaction, whether it's just the human interaction in terms of being able to critically assess something, or that human to human interaction, like a lot of your front desk workers would have. That's the kind of human to human touch that you don't want to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk about AI. So back to my transformation into a new person in a bit of time. So I had the 10 people and I had taken notes and I put it up in a Word document. I said, how am I going to get through this and try to figure out what each one of these meant and how it happened? I said, well, let me try it. So I went on to Copilot, copied and said, I told the AI what I was doing, what I had planned to do, how I did it. And then, now what do I do? And then I clicked go or whatever. And it came back and it gave me the top key areas that are between 10 people, what things that were causing angst, what things that people would like, what people don't want to lose, and what they do want to get, and how they want to be better. And then it said, now these are some steps you can go through, and this is what you can do, Sean, to do this. And I'm like, whoa, that was cool. It basically, it was all the people side of things. It was one-on-one, and I cried, they cried. I mean, because some of these, we've worked together for 20 years. So there was a lot of emotion in those conversations, and that didn't come through in that thing. But I knew that, but the things that they said, and then it really zeroed in on the things that are important to me. And that was what really made me feel good, is that they took all those things. It was the culture. It was the values. It was the taking care of, and guardrails. How can we have guardrails for the company so they don't get away from what's gotten us to where we are? Now, we've done okay. We went from one hotel and $2 million to $125 million, and we're okay. But we can still get better. Doesn't mean we're going to we don't care about development for this. I think there was a question about growth strategy. We don't really have a strategy for growth. We have a way if growth happens. I think our first step was, and I'm getting off track of what you were saying, but I think the strategy that we have is we want to choose things that are going to not impact negatively our culture. Mm-hmm. So if, we buy a 10-pack of hotels, we've got some investors that we could do that. But is that going to throw a real wrench into who we are? And then we're not taking care of our 700 original people. So we try to make sure that that's not going to impact us negatively, and then make sure our investors get a return. And it doesn't mean we're going to cut prices or take advantage of people or anything like that. We're just going to say, we know where we stand and what we'll do. And then the part of it is embracing those people that we just brought into our family. We just bought a hotel in Saratoga, New York a month ago. And we talk about it. We said, we want to welcome you to our family, and we're going to earn your respect, but we're going to take some time. We're going to get to know you, and we want to embrace it. And it's okay to be nervous. And Sean was nervous because I was in the same boat. And then we're going to get them into our family, and then some of our people that we've brought into our company have risen in the roles, and we only bought them 3 years ago. Yeah. So and those are great examples to share with the people.
It's interesting how you talk about your growth strategy. What I think I heard there was, can we get a return for our investors, but can we do it in a way that's not going to mess up our culture? Right. It's sort of like 1A and 1B. Those are the questions that you ask.
Absolutely. And I think the reason being is we know what got us here. And we don't want to waver on that. And we don't really want to waver in giving an investment because these investors are going to put money in and they want a certain return. And if we screw it up, there goes our growth strategy. So those two things are just so critical. And then so that's affecting our associates and affecting our investors and ownership. And if we take care of both of those, and Mr. Marriott said it well, if you take care of the associates will take care of the guests, and the guests will keep coming back. And if that happens, we'll all make more money, including our investors. But we have to go back to taking care of our associates in the right way.
Sean, in my experience, some of our biggest growth opportunities come from overcoming our biggest challenges. What is a big challenge that you've had to overcome? And what did you learn going through that process?
Well, there's a bunch. I mean, because I've been doing this for a number of years. And some that have seemed big before aren't as big now. That job I didn't have, or that chance that someone was going to buy us, and it was scary, and it was scary then, but it's not quite as scary now. I think, 9/11 was a big scare. That really impacted the industry. We didn't know how much. I mean, those days that it happened, it was just horrific. But then the savings, the Great Recession, that was scary because we said, okay, we're going to, I took a cut and pay, and we froze wages and did all that stuff. And, the banks were just going to come at you, and it was just pretty scary. But we got through it. But then COVID hit, and COVID was a scary thing because no one had a clue. And what is it going to impact our business? What's going to happen? I was at a meeting in Memphis with Hilton, and they came on and they shared, this is what we're going to have to do. These are the things you didn't know whether you handshake, hug, put sanitizer on, or there were no masks or anything. And it was just, no one knew. It was scary. And I flew home. There was nobody in the airport when I got home. It was just impactful. But so then we started saying, what do we have to do? And we said, how do we take care of our people, but still keep our business? And so we came up with, and this was a team of us. And I remember sitting in a hotel because we were ready to open a hotel during this time. We had a hotel already. The staff was there. We were training. When they coming in, we said, okay, no more handshakes. We'll just do fist bump, and we'll do elbow bumps. And we still had a couple meetings during this time, but it got worse and worse. And we saw it was, and then what happened was the municipalities and the cities and the states were hunkering down and not letting us operate. So we had to shut down, some of them. So we probably I think we probably had, the time maybe set 18 hotels, maybe 20 hotels, and we shut down like 14 of them. But we found a way to be able to take care of people. Now that was our frontline associates were getting the premium unemployment thing, and they were all whole. Even our leaders, though, we made them whole by making sure that they got insurance, and if they were not down, so we covered, so they were whole. They had insurance, and they had and we kept the hotels there. We weren't operating, but we kept them there. But I remember sitting there trying to make these decisions. How do you take care of the people, but still maintain your business? And then once we got going, I think what I found, we started, lightening it up a little bit. I found it really, inspirational. We started working with the brands, Hilton and Marriott, serving on committees. What are we all going to do? It wasn't, what are franchisees going to do, or what's Hilton going to do? It's, what are we going to do? We got to get out of this together. What can we do to help the guests, but make sure that we're not losing our shirt and we're going to go out of business? Because they were scared. I mean, Marriott went from 90 to 10% of what they had. It was unbelievable. So they would work together. There was a lot of synergies between Marriott and us, because we have Marriott, and Hilton and us. And I probably, that's when Teams and Zoom really came to be, is during that time. And it was resilient. The ideas that people had, what can we do? How can we do things different? How do we do the rooms? What do we do? And we had our people working on it. We kind of had our COVID czar, one of the guys on our team, and he was looking for safety and security and all that. But and every time I go home, I wouldn't know what to do. So part of my role during that time was I want to keep people in life feeling like we're going to be okay. And I mean, I'd have my crying sessions. Don't quit. I mean, it was crazy. And I would do what I would consider somewhat inspirational little snippets, a 2-minute something from Sean, whether it be a song or a song and some words or something, and just trying to say, well, this is what we're doing. This is, I'm trying to communicate what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how much I could understand what they're going through, because I feel the same way. So, I'll kick off to this other thing, is during that time, Arnie Sorensen, who was the CEO of Marriott, was a wonderful, wonderful leader. Everybody respected him around the world. He found out he had cancer just before that, and he was pretty sick. And then, he ended up, COVID hit. And so no one was in the office anymore. He wasn't in the office anymore. And he had his head shaved because he'd lost his hair through treatments. And I remember when he found out he had cancer, I just heard Sean's notes. I would send him notes, once every 2 or 3 weeks. I'd send him a note just saying, hey, I'm thinking of you. Now, we'd met a couple times, but we weren't like buddies or friends. And I wondered if he ever knew who I was, but he would write back to me in an email. I'd send a thing within a week, and I'm saying that's just his admin sending it. But then I realized it wasn't. It was him, and he was appreciative, and he'd always say something with wisdom. And it's almost like I'm trying to help this guy who's got a death sentence, whose company's falling apart, and he's inspiring me. And it was the resiliency of people, and it was one of those examples that just said, doesn't matter what you got, you can change something. He impacted my life tremendously. And we would joke around, and he talked about it. He says, yeah, he'd talk about my grandkids, and I talk about his kids. And he said, we're home. And a funny story, right before Christmas, it was Christmas Eve, I sent him a thing, and he'd answer me. If I sent him something at 5:00 Christmas morning, he sent me something at 7 a.m. once we were all doing emails. And he said, Sean, thank you for the notes, and, thank you for your friendship. Now, again, I didn't know the guy. We were pen pals, and that's what I'd sign him most of the time, your pen pal. And he told me, he said, Sean, don't tell anybody this. And it's okay now because he's passed away. But he said, my wife and I told him about a song that was on this White Christmas, the movie that we watched Christmas Eve. And he said, we sang that song, me and my sister. And my wife and I get wigs on. I put wig on, and we danced that with my kids. And I'm thinking, this is the CEO of Marriott who's trying to make my life better. And then he passed away 3 weeks later. But that's what really makes a difference. So that COVID that hurt all of us gave me a belief in our society. We were all hurting, but we ended up doing okay. And we found ways to get around all these things, and we pulled together. Yeah, there was some negativity about whether COVID, vaccination or that, but in general, our country and our world pulled together. So, that 2 years that I might not have had a job was minimal compared to that kind of thing. And we were able to come out whole. We, I took a 50% cut in pay, and my wife had just switched jobs within our company, and I laid her off. She was the first one. So we at least set an example, but we all made it through, and we kept going back and talking about our culture.
So you're leading a group of hundreds of employees during easily one of the most difficult times in recent human history. And a lot of people are looking to you for strength, for guidance, for, hey, let us know that this is going to be okay. But Sean, here you are kind of flying by the seat of your pants. You don't really know if it's going to be okay. You're just as uncertain as the rest of us. Where are you pulling support from? Where are you kind of pulling this confidence from to be able to lead your team?
Well, yeah, during that time, we had some people, we were so close, the senior leaders of our organization at that point. We were so close that I think we did that for each other. Each one of us would crash at one point or another. I'm an Irish guy, cry at a blue light special at Kmart, I would, the emotional side of things. I guess what I drew from this was that this is what I got to do. This is our people, and they're hurting, and suck it up, Sean. And, I'd cry at night. My wife and I would talk, and I had friends and stuff I could talk to, but suck it up. We got to get this done. Someone's got to, and I'm not going to solve the world and solve COVID, but I can just maybe give a little light to someone who's really hurting. And I'd call the GMs that were working. Every GM got heard from me on a regular basis because they were still on full time, and they were protecting their hotels, flushing the toilets every day, running the water every day, and, walking around. So, it was crazy. And I had my moments where I wasn't, but it was mostly private moments. And I think that's okay. You can only go on for so long, and I'm an optimistic guy too. And I keep saying, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. So, when it wasn't getting better, I'm like, oh man. But, so we, and I kept going back to the resilience of the people that we're working with, whether it be the brands or whether it be our leaders or our associates. And then when we started opening up again, I mean, we open up, but if no one's going to travel, what are you going to do? And, we basically said we can get down to 10% occupancy. And then at that point, we have to shut down. We're going to be eating up. We can cover it down to 10% occupancy. I mean, we're going to cut back, but not, so we set a set point of where we knew that we could or couldn't. And then it was just eating up money. We're not going to, fortunately, the other nice thing about this was it goes back to the relationships that we'd formed. I don't think I've talked about relationships, but that's where I am. If you want to know how I got to where I am, it's relationships. I care about people and I build relationships. And so let's talk our bankers. We said, we don't know what to do. And they said, what do you need? And they'd give us interest only, or they'd say, we'll talk in 6 months. We won't pay anything. We'll put it on the other end of your loan. We had people that gave us partial release. We had vendors who said, what do you need? Well, we'll not charge you for this. We're going to give you half of this. We know we have a regular fee, but we won't charge you for that. And so it kind of also said that we and probably maybe everybody had that, I don't know, but we realized that the vendors and the people we work with, our partners, our bankers, our owners, all of this really cared, and they helped us through it. So I think to me, it was the silver lining is I learned so many positive things about our company and our relationships with people. And it was amazing. So yes, it was tough, but what I take out of it is like, wow, could have been a lot tougher if we didn't have great relationships.
Mm. How do you think about developing those relationships?
Well, that's one of my plans, and this thing Sean always does and my transition is I got to figure that one out. To me, I think a lot of people go into relationships and say, what am I going to get out of this? I'm going to go in there and serve on the Marriott board. I'm on 2 boards with Marriott and 2 with Hilton. I'm not there because I want to get something. I'm there because I want to contribute. I think we have a message that can assist Hilton or Marriott get better for everybody. And then in turn, we're going to get something because they're going to get better for everybody. And yes, I formed the friendships and relationships, but if you keep going back and you keep treating people correctly and caring about the people, the fact that Lauren, my buddy from Marriott, and his wife and his kids, and I just saw on Facebook, his kid just graduated from college. And those are the kinds of things that people want to hear that. And that's the friendships and the relationships you get. So then when you call and say, look, I'm kind of in a mess here. I don't know how to deal with this. And they say, what do you need? It's the same thing. But you've got to invest in that. You've got to invest in that. It's like an emotional bank account. You've got to invest in the people. And you keep investing and keep investing. And sometimes it's going to come back. Sometimes it won't. And that's okay. But you feel good about making someone feel good. And I do. And sometimes that pays off. You got someone you can call and it's not like I'm calling for favors. Sometimes I feel guilty calling for favors because they're my friends. But I'm saying, hey, we're in a situation. What do you think we should do? And they'll come up with an answer that may be helpful to us. But it was the investment we made for 20 years as a company into these brands, into the friendships, and into the meetings we had in COVID. I mean, shoot, I was on 2 Hilton and 2 Marriott meetings a day. That was an investment in our relationship, and it was appreciated.
But you didn't go into it with, what can I extract from this? You went into it with, what can I add to this? And how can I connect with this person on a human level?
Yeah, I guess I do get stuff out of it, but it's a new friend. I get a new friend and I get a new relationship, and I get the joy of knowing that maybe I've done something that's helped someone.
Yeah.
And that probably sounds all, touchy-feely and all that stuff, but I truly do. I get it. I really get excited about that stuff. When I can call up somebody that, that they're hurt, and I can call up and say something to it. And, I don't say that I'm doing it for me, but it's as much for me as it is for them. Yeah. That I can give to them. And then all of a sudden it really matters to them. Then I feel good about myself. So it wasn't done because I want to feel good about myself. It was done because I care about them. But when it comes back to me, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool.
That's a nice return on investment there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sean, I've just got one more question for you today, but before I ask it, I want to do 3 quick things. First of all, anybody who wants to get in touch with Main Course Hospitality Group, their website's really easy, just 4 letters, mchg.com, Main Course Hospitality Group. So mchg.com. And their phone number
is 207-865-6105.
All right, give it to us one more time.
207-865-6105.
Also, as a reminder, if you want to get more hotel employees access to doctors, therapists, and prescription meds that actually carries a financial upside for the company, reach out to us at addbackbenefits.com. Finally, if you will take just a moment to leave us a comment or a review on your favorite podcast app, you'll hold a special place in my heart forever. Thank you so much. Okay, so last question for you now, Sean. A year from now, you are celebrating something big. What's that big thing you hope to be celebrating 1 year from today?
For me, and that's a good timing for me in my role and where I'm doing. I want to come back and I want to celebrate how we've infused culture deeper into our organization, and that we're inspiring our culture to be deeper, and not just Sean and not just our senior leaders. With this transition that I'm going through, that to me is very, very important because this is my legacy. So the celebration for me would be I'm gonna sit back and watch it grow and watch how it's taken off to the next level. I'm not the driver of this. I'm a part of it, and it'd be really exciting for me to celebrate them when the culture gets even better.
Love it. Sean Rowley from Main Course Hospitality Group. I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And, thank you for sending this kind of message. I think, we need these kind of things in the world. It doesn't matter the things I said, it happens to be a hotel, but it could be widgets. It could be restaurants. It could be anything. And so when people like you do a podcast and sends good messages, you're helping the country. You're positively impacting lives. And thank you.
I appreciate those kind words, Sean. Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.